So you just finished the notes. The next problem we're going to investigate is, do all cells reproduce the exact same way? Read and annotate, highlight the answers, and answer the following questions. So we're talking about asexual versus sexual reproduction, two ways living things can reproduce. Let's look at the questions first before we read. Question 1 is, what is asexual reproduction in your own words? Question 2 is, what are advantages? So looking for a definition and the advantages or benefits to asexual reproduction. For many single-celled organisms, such as bacteria, cell division is the only form of reproduction. The process can be 1, simple, 2, efficient, which means it works well, and 3, effective. So it's going to be simple, efficient, and effective. I'm going to highlight that. Sounds like 3 advantages to me. This allows populations to increase in numbers very quickly. In most cases, the 2 cells produced by cell division are genetically identical. They're the same to the cell that produced them. This kind of reproduction is called asexual reproduction. The production of genetically, or DNA, identical offspring from a single parent is known as asexual reproduction. So the production of a genetically identical offspring, which is like a child, from a single parent is known as asexual reproduction. So basically when a cell splits in half to make the exact copy of itself. Question 1, what is asexual reproduction in your own words? So we just highlighted that right there. Identical offspring from a single parent. There's no partner involved. Question 2, what are 3 advantages to asexual reproduction? So it can be simple, it's efficient, which means it works well, and it's a very effective way to reproduce. There's your 3 advantages right there. So let's go to the next section. It's about sexual reproduction. So the first question is, how is sexual reproduction different than asexual reproduction? So how is this method of reproducing more babies different than this one? Question 4, where does the offspring or the children of sexual reproduction get their DNA from? So we're going to answer those 2 questions in there. Sexual reproduction involves the fusion of 2 separate parent cells. So it involves the fusion, which is a combination of 2 parent cells. In sexual reproduction, offspring, children, are produced by the fusion of special reproductive cells formed by each of 2 parents. Offspring produced by sexual reproduction get their DNA from each parent. Interesting. So you get your DNA from each parent. Most animals and plants reproduce sexually, and so do some single-celled organisms. So how is sexual reproduction different than asexual? Remember, asexual has 1 parent involved. Sexual reproduction has 2 parents involved. Question number 4, where does the offspring, which is another word for children, of sexual reproduction receive their DNA from? So basically, who do you get your DNA from? We highlighted both of those answers in this reading up here. Let's go to the next section, which is about comparing asexual and sexual reproduction. So what is the differences between these 2? For single-celled organisms, asexual reproduction is a survival strategy. When conditions are right, the faster they produce, the better their chance of survival. Let's highlight some stuff there. So let's see. So it's fast, it's faster, and when the conditions are right, it's good. That means nothing changes in the environment. Next paragraph. Having offspring that have identical DNA is also an advantage as long as conditions remain like the same temperature, the amount of rain, food, etc. However, a lack of DNA diversity, right, so becomes a disadvantage when temperatures, amount of rain, food change in ways that do not fit the characteristics of an organism. So it can be good if the conditions are right or stay the same, and it's also a lack of diversity is also a disadvantage when the temperature and environment changes. Sexual reproduction is a different type of survival strategy. The process of finding someone to mate with and the growth and development of a child requires more time. This can be a disadvantage. So, more time is a disadvantage to living things. Okay? Think about how long it takes to make a human baby, 9 months, versus how long it takes to make new bacteria. It can happen really quickly. An advantage of sexual reproduction is DNA diversity. If an environment changes, some may have the right combination of DNA needed to survive. So we have DNA diversity is good in a changing environment. Perfect. So, all right. Based on the reading above, complete the chart below. So types of reproduction. What is an advantage or benefit of asexual reproduction? Well, up here, we saw they can reproduce faster and as long as conditions are right. Also, they have the same DNA. Another advantage too. So we have they can reproduce faster and they have the same DNA. We also saw reading earlier, if we go back up, we saw that it was simple, it's efficient, and it's effective. So we've seen 4 things that are an advantage for reproducing by yourself. Those answers go down here. So we have efficient, faster, good in a non-changing environment, and only one parent. Disadvantages, however, if conditions change or if the environment changes, then the species will die. That's a disadvantage. There's also a lack of DNA, a lack of diversity. Now, sexual advantages is big adversity, right? Lots of diversity. But we know that this is slow. It takes, got to find a partner, got to find food for children, etc. Last question. Some organisms reproduce both sexually and asexually. Yeast, which is used to make bread, for example, are single-celled organisms that use both strategies. It makes sense that some organisms would reproduce using both methods since they both have advantages and disadvantages. So which type of organism can reproduce asexually and sexually? Well, we saw that both is yeast. There you go.